Hi friends, welcome to CORELIGHT'S Spiritual Weather Report. It is December 15th, 2024. This is Brad, and I'm calling in today from Limpopo province in South Africa. I'm home. I've been traveling so much, and I'm so happy to be back home at the beautiful Blyder River Canyon. I cannot tell you how nice it is to sleep in my own bed and just to be here in this extraordinary sanctuary that Leslie and I have been blessed to steward for the past 25 years. The natural world here is so beautiful. We're surrounded by nature reserves, and there are more animals than people here. We're also at the foot of a sacred mountain. So I'm just always blown away by this place whenever I am blessed to return and get to be here. And I hope you can feel the energy. I'll be sharing it with you on the call today. So today is a full moon. So if you're listening live, this is a power moment. Just happened a few hours ago, the peak of the full moon. But the truth is, whether you're listening live or in the future, it really doesn't matter because we are all in the field of love together, and it exists in the eternal present moment anyway, no matter what linear time you might be tuning in. We're also, to mention, we're in a power window of a few weeks. We just had 12/12, December 12th, which is one of the most powerful days of the year, according to many shamans. And of course, we have the solstice coming up in a few days, plus Christmas and Hanukkah holidays and all the other holidays that are celebrated, and New Year's. And these are all spiritually powerful moments. So this whole time period is a really excellent opportunity for spiritual advancement. And we'll be talking a lot more about that today and what kinds of practices we can be doing to take full advantage of this time. But if you're listening to this in the future, it really doesn't matter. These practices are still powerful no matter when you do them. It's just there's an added bonus, an added boost of power when you practice in the power window of right now. So let's see. I also mentioned on the call last month in November, but it's worth mentioning again, there is some very significant astrology happening. It was November 19th that Pluto entered Aquarius, and that is the beginning of a 20-year period of extraordinary revolutionary reforms and quantum leaps in technology and so forth. So I guess I wonder how much you're feeling that intense energy. I know I am. It's very intense, and so we're going to be talking more about that today. But anyway, I hope you're taking advantage of that and feeling the momentousness of this time. So before we begin our session today, I'd like to welcome everybody who's new to CORELIGHT, and also welcome to all of our old friends too, as always. And for those who are new, every month, I tune in on what's happening in the collective consciousness, and I'm always shown a few key themes to discuss on these calls. And today, I got very, very clear guidance to offer a little bit of a recap of some of the themes from the past few months, because these are very powerful energies that are still with us, and so they're still important to focus on them. So today there are 6 themes, and they are post-election uncertainty and changes ahead. Number 2, how to prepare for death and rebirth. And that's metaphorical. Death and doesn't mean there's a physical death imminent. It just means the death of an old way and the rebirth of a new way. So how to prepare for death and rebirth. Number 3, revelations of truth. Number 4, are you able to change your mind? Number 5, the power of humility. And number 6, the last one for today, raising our vibration into joy. So for anybody who's new to the spiritual weather reports, I start by offering a guided meditation, and then I speak about the prevailing energies that are affecting us, and also about the spiritual principles that are most helpful for us right now. And then we have time for questions and answers, and we always close the session with a brief guided meditation or a prayer or visualization or whatever we have time for. Before we get started, there are a few things, little housekeeping things, some updates I just wanted to share with you. So first of all, I am super excited that we just announced one of the most powerful online courses that Leslie ever taught. It's 7 Portals of Spiritual Awakening. We opened it for registration a couple of weeks ago. The start date is January 15th, and it's going to go for 7 weeks, and I'll be offering some live Zoom Q&A calls with that course. So if you want to see what it's about, you can just go to CORELIGHT.org, and you'll find it there near the top of the home page under the Featured Courses banner. And it's called 7 Portals of Spiritual Awakening. As I said, you'll see there's a short video there about the course. And we've also added 7 short little audio excerpts by Leslie, one for each portal. So you get a taste of what the course is like. And I can't tell you how excited I am. I'm so pleased with the new presentation of the course. We offered this course a long time ago, and we've revamped it and represenced it for online. And if you feel called to join, I always invite people to tune in, and if you feel it's for you, I would love to see you there. Oh, and I should mention, you don't have to attend it live. The Zoom calls are recorded, and we share the recording so you can watch it later. And you have until the middle of July to finish the course. So you can still sign up even if you're busy for the next couple of months. And if you took the course back in the day when it was first offered, you can get, or actually any time, we offered it for many years. So if you took the course, you can get a 2/3 discount if you'd want to take it again. And for anyone who's interested, you can just contact us at courses@corelight.org for that discount code if you took it already. We have added a lot of new material to the course since it was first offered. We've got new videos, new guided meditations, new home practices, and a lot more. Again, it's called 7 Portals of Spiritual Awakening, and you can find it at corelight.org. And just a couple more things. I am offering a couple of very intimate in-person retreats in South Africa in March and April 2025, and those are open to people who have taken any of CORELIGHT'S courses. The April one is already full, but the March one still has a few spaces available. So if you're interested, please do let us know as soon as you know you want to attend. You can let us know by emailing courses@corelight.org, and we can get you the information. We do expect it to fill up, so as soon as you know you'd like to join us, please do let us know. Lastly, I wanted to mention I'm intuiting that I might be offering some in-person events in the U.S. in 2025. Not sure when, not sure where, but I will keep you posted when I know more. And meanwhile, if you want me to come to your area, please contact me and let me know. You can email courses@corelight.org. All right, let's go ahead and begin with our guided meditation for today. So I invite you to take a pause if you're multitasking and just get comfortable sitting in a chair or lying on the floor, and take a few long, slow, deep breaths. And just let go. Just relax. Giving yourself the gift of this present moment to just be with yourself and be with your spiritual journey. This is a very precious moment where we can all be together and connect in the oneness. So I invite you to continue to breathe very long and slow and deep. And with the inhale, Breathe in all the light and life force that surrounds you. And exhale any tension that you might be feeling in your body. Breathing in love and peace and joy. And breathing out shadow and stress. Breathing in the present moment. Breathing out any concerns about the past or the future. Just being right here, right now, nowhere to go, nothing to do, except relax and receive this beautiful, beautiful energy of love in this field of love that we're all surrounded by. So as you continue to breathe long and slow and deep and relax very deeply, I invite you to put your attention on the root chakra. And if you're not familiar with chakras, that is at the base of the spine, at the perineum. And just feel how when you put your attention there, the root chakra naturally relaxes and opens. And it's okay if you don't feel it or you're not familiar with chakras, it's totally fine. You can just visualize. And you can set the intention that one day you'd like to feel this and one day you will. And so now I invite you to drop your grounding cord from the root chakra all the way down into the earth, down, dropping it down into the center of the earth. Visualize the center of the earth in whatever way you like. Some people say that it is a crystal. Some people say it's a molten iron core. I like to visualize it as golden and bright. And just connect your grounding cord with the core of the earth and feel yourself grounding very deeply on Mother Earth. Feel gravity gently pulling you towards the earth, and feel Mother Earth supporting you from beneath in the form of the floor and the chair. And just relax and let go. Breathing deeply. And with a big, deep exhale, just gently slip into the arms of Mother Earth like a little baby. Deeply, deeply relaxing and letting go into the embrace of Mother Earth. Feeling her support from beneath. Feeling so safe, so held, and so nurtured and loved by Mother Earth. Feeling deeply at peace, deeply relaxed. And now I invite you to draw the earth energy up through the soles of the feet and up the legs, back up to the root, and up your torso along the core of light that is within you. It sits right in front of the spine. We all have one. It is the core of enlightenment within each of us. Looks like a luminous fluorescent tube. If you're clairvoyant, you can see it. And just be with that energy of your core. Let's just all sit with it together for a moment. Just feel yourself connected to the earth and feel your core energy running down the center of your body, from the top of the head all the way down to the root, running right in front of the spine. And what's amazing about this core is that we all have the core of enlightenment within us. We think that our core is separate from somebody else's core, but that is not the truth. The truth is there's only one core for all of us. For 8 billion people on the planet, there's one core. Isn't that amazing? And that's not a metaphor, that's literal. So literally all of us who participate in this call, whether present time or future time, we are all sharing this core energy. It belongs to each of us. And so I invite you to feel that. Feel your connection with all life. Humans and non-humans alike, all life has this core energy running inside them. So I just invite you right now, as you feel this core energy inside you, just feel and visualize your connection with all life, your unity. There is no such thing as separation at this level. We are one. This is the spirit that moves in all things inside each of us. The whole of the natural world, including humans who are part of the natural world too. Although we sometimes forget that. So just absorbing and loving this opportunity to feel the core energy and to feel our unity with all life, with the spirit that moves in all things, which we truly are. It's the energy of love. Pure love, light, joy. That's who we are. And now I invite you to put your attention on your crown chakra at the top of your head. Feels like a crown that a king or a queen would wear. If you're able to feel it or see it clairvoyantly, it's right there. And if not, that's totally fine, of course. You can just visualize it. And let's all see and feel the crown opening up and out on the top of our heads like a funnel, like 1,000-petaled lotus on the top of the head, unfurling petal by petal, just opening up and out and allowing beautiful divine energy from the celestial realms to rain down upon you. This is the energy of unity consciousness. It's your soul energy, and you can just absorb it like a gentle golden white mist raining down on you. Just allow yourself to absorb this beautiful energy of your soul, of unity consciousness, filling you up, soaking it up in your body, in your aura. And as you do this, this is a feeling and a visualizing exercise, not a thinking exercise. So just be with this. Just feel and see. Feel and see your physical body as the connection point between heaven and earth. You are the midpoint. That beautiful physical body of yours is heaven on earth. It is the marriage of spirit and matter. And so as you just feel this and absorb it, I will say a little prayer and an invocation for our call today. We call on Great Spirit, Divine Mother, Father God, the Self that we all are. We invite in all of our highest guides and teachers, all the angels and the beings who surround us in the highest love and support. We invite you into this sacred circle, and we ask that you please wrap us up in a beautiful cocoon of golden white light and love and healing energy. Guide our conversation into the highest love and the highest wisdom, and hold our hands as we walk out into the world today, into our soul's highest purpose. And we give such great thanks for this opportunity to share this time together, whether we're listening in present time or in the future, doesn't matter. We are all part of the field of love. And at this level, there's no such thing as time and space. And we give thanks for this field of love that we share and these beautiful bodies that we get to wear on the exquisite planet Earth, our beautiful blue planet. We're especially grateful to be incarnated at this extraordinary time, the birthing of a whole new paradigm and the ending of an old cycle. Such extraordinary times we live in. Such a gift to be here now and to be midwives of this new paradigm of the heart. As challenging as it may seem at times, we also recognize the gift and the opportunity that it is, the blessing to be part of this. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And before we close, let's just take a moment to say a special prayer for all the beings on earth who suffer. All who suffer from war or illness or natural disasters or poverty or hunger or loss of any kind. Humans and the natural world, all life. We send our love out to all who need it. And we ask for blessings that they may be uplifted and healed. And we give thanks knowing that this is so. Alalaho, which means, isn't it wonderful in Tibetan? And so now I invite you to slowly bring your awareness back into the room and into your body. When you feel ready, slowly begin to wiggle your fingers and toes and open your eyes. Okay, welcome again, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with you. Delighted to share the energy of my home here in beautiful South Africa with you. I wanted to start today with a quote. "No man is useless who lightens the burden of another." That's Charles Dickens from A Christmas Carol. And that means man or woman, of course. No human is useless who lightens the burden of another. As I mentioned at the beginning of the call, we just had 12/12, December 12th, and that's one of the most powerful days of the year. And today is the full moon in Gemini. It just peaked a few hours ago, and they call this the cold moon. I believe they call it the cold moon because it's the closest full moon to the winter solstice in the Northern Hemisphere. And I realized, that's not really fair to the Southern Hemisphere. When you live here, you notice these things. But okay, anyway, it's midsummer here and crazy hot. But no matter which hemisphere you're in, it is a full moon that marks a very powerful time to complete, to wrap up what is old and no longer serving you, and to let it go. And we're going to be talking more about that today. And of course, also, as I mentioned, we've got the solstice coming up very soon, and the holidays, Christmas and Hanukkah and so forth, and New Year's. And so these are all part of a window that we can take full advantage of to empower our spiritual awakening journey. And I especially love this time of year. It's one of my favorite times because it's a time when we get to focus on giving and generosity. And I loved gift giving. I just love to do it all year long, but especially at this time, because giving opens the heart. And it opens not just my heart, but it opens the heart of the giver and the receiver. So generosity, it's one of the highest vibration states of consciousness that we can be in, and that's because of that bridging, that it bridges the separation, the apparent separation, which is not real. And for that moment of giving, we are bonded, we are connected. And when somebody receives a gift and they say thank you, it's like we become one. We become tied together in a spiritual way, in a heart-centered way. I think of the word thank you, and I know I'm learning a little Portuguese because we work in Brazil, and the word for thank you is obrigado. And in some circles in the United States, people say much obliged. So obrigado and obliged, they have the same root, which is L-I-G, obliged. And L-I-G is to tie in Latin, to tie together, like to ligate, to tie. And so there's this, it's even in the language. When we say thank you and when we give, we're in this bond of love. So I love that. I think of it all the time, and this is a time of year when we get to kindle generosity. And so I'm going to talk more about this time of year today, but not right now. I'm actually getting a little ahead of myself. The first thing I wanted to talk about is the post-election energy, because it still continues. I'm sure if you're listening to this call, you're aware of what I'm talking about. So, like I said before, I want to recap some of the topics that have been themes in the past few months because they're still with us. And I know that some of them are even going to continue into the new year. So it feels really important that we address them. So the first theme is post-election uncertainty and changes ahead. So there's still a very strong feeling of uncertainty in the collective consciousness. And on the one hand, there's this sense of freedom and openness about the uncertainty. It's like at times like this, it feels like anything's possible. Like there's this great potential ahead of us, and something new is about to birth. And on the other hand, there's also a fear. And it reminds me a little bit of an artist facing a blank canvas. There's this little bit of trepidation around, like, what do we do with all this formlessness and this unknown and this great uncertainty about all of it. So we talked about this a little bit last month, but having a sense of curiosity about it is helpful. Keeping an open mind about the new possibilities that are ahead of us. And that's very important right now. Like I said in November on the last Spiritual Weather Report, there are massive collective changes ahead of us. And we even talked about this in January of 2024. It's in the astrology. This is just a year that's culminating with massive change. So we're on the cusp of a physical manifestation of the collapsing of the old paradigm. And it's the birth of something new. And, Leslie and I have, we've always talked about this general time period that we're living in as the end of a 6,000 year age of patriarchy and the beginning of what we call the new paradigm of the heart. And these are massive cycles, so they don't happen, the change doesn't happen overnight. They're very long cycles. So it's going to take time for the train to slow down, right? And then stop and then change direction. But really, we are in the thick of it right now. Like the train is coming to a stop. It's about to turn around. Literally, these years of the 2020s are this pivot point. And in the coming few years, we're going to see these massive changes happening in the collective. And it's going to be on all levels. The systems of the world are going to really begin going through the much needed overhaul that we've all prayed for and dreamed of. And that's, at a governmental level, technological, educational, environmental, financial, health, and on, all the systems. And so I think the changes are actually unimaginable for us right now. I think about that. I think, like, just imagine you're somebody who lived 100 years ago. You could not have imagined the world we're living in with computers and cell phones and airplanes and freeways and on and on. I think it's going to be like that. I think it's going to be a quantum leap, but actually even more exponential. I think it's going to affect all the systems of the planet in this exponential way, in an unfathomable way. So we're in this most important time right now, and it is an excellent time to focus on the personal changes that we're going through in preparation for whatever's coming. And I want to talk a lot about that today. So it's about the personal changes that we can focus on right now in preparation for what's to come. So the next topic, this leads right into the next topic, and it's how to prepare for death and rebirth. And like I said, people hear the word death and they get scared, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not saying we're all going to die, but this is, it's a spiritual journey. We die to our old self, and we are reborn every day into a new self. there's an exercise that I love to do from time to time that really helps me navigate these big changes that we're in right now, like we're in right now. So since so many of us are feeling these energies of change that are on us, I thought I'd like to share this with you in case it's helpful. The very first thing that I like to do is make a list. I make a list of all the things that I feel I would need to do if I were going to die soon. So, like, for example, in a month or in a few months. I'm not talking about dying tomorrow. And I'm not talking about actually dying. Like I said, I'm just saying, imagine that you might die in a month or in a few months. And that makes it an opportunity to do things like, we need to get our affairs in order. We need to let go of all the things that we don't need, that are no longer serving us. And it starts with making the list. And so I invite you to do this practice in your journal and to do an inventory of all these things. And so let's talk about it a little bit. The actual doing of things happens later. It begins with this journaling exercise. So you make this overall list, and I like to start with physical things, like, for example, I might write down purge the garage or the storage unit, or house cleaning, deep clean of the bedroom or whatever, clean out under the bed or the closet or whatever it is. And for me personally, I can tell you, for the last couple of months, actually, no, it was before that. It was August, September, October when I was in Santa Fe. I started this massive project of cleaning out our storage unit there when Leslie and I sold our house and, uprooted. We got rid of the office and the house about 6-7 years ago. And slowly but surely, I'm winnowing down and purging all of this stuff. And so I've really focused a lot on it, and it feels so good. And it's like, this is a very empowering exercise especially to do right now at this time of year. So anyway, that's one thing, is physical stuff. Another thing is cleaning up unfinished business in relationships. So, for example, maybe finalizing with your ex, or drawing some boundaries with family members, or that kind of thing. Whatever it is that seems unfinished in a relationship, this is a great time to be working on cleaning all that up. And another thing would be the internal cleansing, the internal purging. And that can look like a whole range of things. That can be making a list of habits or judgments or thought patterns, behavior patterns. I think of these things as the stuff that I don't want to take with me if I die and get reborn into another life. I want to be done with it. So we have this opportunity now to complete all this stuff while we're in this body, so that we don't have to take it with us to the next life. So you write those things down, anything that you really want to get rid of. And, like I said, the first step is creating the inventory, whether it's physical or internally or in relationships or whatever. And then the next step is you prioritize your list, and you also check to make sure that you're not feeling overwhelmed. I hope you're not feeling overwhelmed at my suggesting this, but if you are, you can just witness that feeling and just don't buy into it, let it go. And then when you're ready and you've prioritized your list and you're not overwhelmed by it, you just pick the first thing. Just take the first thing on the list, and you just start that process of doing your purging and cleaning up with the one thing. Even if you just do one of the things on the list, that's great. So, for example, for me, the physical purge was the easiest thing. And I knew I had to do it. So I just started that, and a whole bunch of friends started showing up to help me. So it was clear that it was in the flow. And I'm just so grateful to my friends. If you're listening, I thank you. You know who you are. And then when I talk about the internal cleanse, I assume you know what I mean, but I'm talking about doing some inner work, some processing, clearing of consciousness. So it's like cleaning your internal house, so to speak. So I'm talking about using practices like we teach in the Marriage of Spirit book that Leslie and I wrote a long time ago. I know most people who are on these calls know what I'm talking about. But if you're new, or if you haven't read the Marriage of Spirit book, there are many, many, many options out there. You know, people offer all kinds of clearing techniques nowadays. So you can use whatever tools or practices you like to use, but the important thing is just to do it, to use whatever works for you and do the clearing, the inner clearing. And you know what? The other thing I didn't mention, for some people, it might be doing a physical cleanse of the physical body, you know, like a detox or a purge of some kind. I used to do that frequently on solstices. That solstice is a powerful time for that kind of thing. So anyway, after the purge, it's really important to organize what remains. So you do a little inventory of what remains. And like, for example, for me, it's my storage unit, and I'm not quite finished with the purge, but I can feel like when it's done, I'll have this core of the most important stuff, and I'll be able to let go of all the rest. And so I'm going to prepare it and organize it so that if I were to die, somebody else could easily come in and find what they need to find, do what they need to do, and so forth. And again, I'm not saying this to be morbid. You know, some people hear the word death and they start feeling depressed and they feel like it's morbid. But I'm talking about it like if you've ever read the books of Carlos Castaneda, Don Juan used to call it taking death as your advisor. And that is one of the most powerful spiritual exercises we can do, taking death as our advisor. It's basically, you know, we're looking at our mortality, and it helps us to remember that these physical bodies are not going to be here forever. And so we need to focus on, like, what's important for now? What did we come here to do? What can we do now? And that includes looking in the mirror. You know, getting real with ourselves and looking at, you know, what's most important for me right now? What do I need to get real about? What do I need to acknowledge and work with inside me? What would help me fulfill my soul's purpose the most right now? You know, why did I really come here? What did I come here to do? What did I come here to experience? And so, for me, I like to just share my personal experience in case it's helpful. But for me lately, it's been a lot about joy. And I know deeply, deeply inside of me that that's why I came here, is to experience joy. And I mean, I know that that's why we all incarnate on planet Earth, to experience joy. That is, that's the purpose of being here, believe it or not. You know, I think we all forget that. We forget that we come here to experience joy. And, you know, the world can feel like such a burden, and life can feel so heavy at times. And so I think that's part of this exercise that I'm talking about, is facing our death, letting go of all the stuff that might be standing in our way of experiencing that joy. You know, stripping away, letting go of the excess weight, the excess burdens, the worries, and all of that garbage, all of that ballast that we hold on to. And sometimes we're not even aware that we're holding on to it. It's just like we worry, and it's like the water that the fish swims in, and we're not aware that we're worrying. But when we do this exercise, we can catch a glimpse of it. We can see, oh, yeah, I'm blocked from, like, joy. In fact, joy and worry are opposites. You can either have one or the other, but you cannot have both at the same time. So, we get to choose. Do I want to be joyful or do I want to worry? And then doing whatever work we need to do, the inner work, the clearing work, so that we can clear away those worries. So that only lightheartedness and being carefree and getting to experience joy remain. Doesn't that sound great? So I guess I wanted to share that with you. It's just like joy is my new north. I've been talking about this for a few years, and I've realized, like, if I have a decision to make, I weigh it against my heart. And if I get a sense, like a big yes, that it's going to bring joy, then I say yes to it. And if it's not, then it's a no. I mean, that's my practice anyway. I can't say I'm perfect at it, but that's how I like to work these days. So I share that with you in case it's helpful. So to come back to the exercise, the last piece of it is what I like to do is a ceremony of some kind. And especially over the solstice, over the holidays and the New Year, this period is the perfect time to mark that moment and to truly release the old stuff that's no longer serving us. And then also to call in the new that is more supportive and in keeping with what is truly serving us. And so also I want to say, if you're listening to this in the future, doesn't matter. If you miss this window, you can still do the ceremony anytime. It's just there's a special power to this moment of the solstice and the holiday New Year's window. It's an especially powerful time. So there's added benefit to doing the ceremony now. And the ceremony can look like anything you want it to. You can make a symbolic offering of your list of the things that you're letting go of by giving the piece of paper to the fire. Put it in your fireplace or build a fire outdoors if it's not too cold. And especially if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's much easier. Or like if you don't have access to a fireplace, you just get some candles and some incense and you maybe burn those things and you put the list on your altar or something like that. But the point is that you're doing a ceremony to mark the occasion, and you're saying to your spiritual guides and your higher self, I'm letting this go. I'm giving it all back to the oneness, and you say a prayer about that and you make the commitment and you just let it go. And, if you don't have the time to do like a very extensive life inventory like I'm talking about here, I'm suggesting just pick one thing, just pick one thing and focus on the one thing. I mean, and this is my life. I don't know about you, but personally, I can share that I'm just so busy that I generally don't have time for major inventories like that. So sometimes I'll just do it quickly. Like, for example, I can tell you every single year I do, for many, many years, for decades, I've done the same ceremony on New Year's Eve. It's very powerful. And even when I'm so busy that I've only got a spare hour on New Year's Eve, I still stop and I do this. And what I do is I make a list of the highlights of the past year, and that can include anything like accomplishments, achievements, disappointments, any kind of major milestone moment, whether it's positive or negative. And I just write it all down on a list, and then I make an offering of that. I say a prayer, I let it go, I give it to the fire, whatever I want to do, and then after that's done, I spend a little time visioning the year ahead and journaling about whatever I see, whatever I feel. And I also like to make a list in my journal of what I want to manifest in the new year ahead. So I spend a little time on that, and then I do the rest of the ceremony. The completion is that I just say a prayer, and even if it's really brief, I just make an offering of that list for the new year ahead, and I release that to Spirit, and then I just don't think about it again. But usually I keep that page. I'll keep it in my journal, or if it's a loose leaf sheet of paper, I'll fold it up and I'll keep it on an altar for a while, or I stick it in the back of my journal or something. And then on the next New Year's Eve, I go back and look at it. And it's amazing. It's always amazing to me how, I see that the things that I vision manifested in some form, usually. And that's always very empowering to see, that to see how much power we have to vision and manifest. So I love that exercise. I never miss it. So I share that with you in case that's helpful too. I would imagine if you're listening to this that you have your own kind of ceremonies that you do. But these are just some of the ways that we can focus on personal change so that we can prepare, each in our own way for the major collective changes that are ahead for the planet. And like I said, it's essentially a death of an old way and a birth or a rebirth into something completely new for us. All right, let's move on to the next topic, which is revelations of truth. So I guess I wonder, when I think about this, I wonder how many of you are feeling what I'm feeling around this. I've been getting this very strong, loud, clear message beyond what's normal for me. I mean, I often get a loud and clear message, but this is beyond what's normal. And it's been there for a month or a couple months. And I remember I talked about this in October before the election. So I just feel like I'm being guided to revisit this and emphasize it with you. I really don't know what it's going to look like exactly, but it's very clear to me that part of the significant changes ahead are going to be tied together with whatever these revelations of truth are going to be. And I get the very strong feeling that it's going to be like a series of potentially very shattering experiences for most people. And it's like these are things that are going to continue to reverberate and literally shake our belief systems to their core. So I don't mean to scare you with this. I don't get a sense of fear around it. I don't get a sense of anything other than that this is part of the breakdown and breakthrough that we've all been praying for and wanting. So it's actually a very exciting time. When I tune in on this, it just feels very inspiring. And like I mentioned a couple of months ago in October before the U.S. presidential election, I think some of it's going to be around what President Eisenhower referred to in the 1950s as the military-industrial complex. I mean, it doesn't take a psychic to know that those forces have been acting behind the scenes since then, since the 1950s when he warned us about them. Those are forces of separation. And they are the driving forces behind this, this whole horrific forever war thing that we've all had to endure for so long. And I really think that that's one of the main things that's going to get exposed somehow, because it's time. It's time for this to come to an end. Most people that I know are just sick of it. For the most part, people don't want war, right? I mean, much less forever war. I think about that and I just think, oh my God. I mean, aren't you sick of it? Like, I can imagine if you're listening to this call, you feel like I do. I mean, just sick of it. It's like, it's over. It's done. We're finished with this. And I think, most people, we're just trying to live life. Most people are just trying to make ends meet and, support our families and have time with friends and find some love and joy in our life, right? I mean, like, why on earth do we need forever wars? It's just beyond absurd and horrifying and so completely unnecessary. So I think what happens is, sorry, I feel a little wound up. Sorry about that. I think what happens is that we get propagandized into, supporting war in the beginning because, we get told that there's some horrible dictator, like a new Hitler, or there's some horrible oppression going on somewhere. And we're told, like, if we go in with our military, we can solve the problem and we can help right the wrong and bring the resolution to the situation. We can, we'll free the oppressed people or stop the madman dictator, whatever it's about, and then we get shown terrifying pictures, women and children and old people suffering and all kinds of terrible things all these things make us feel very emotional. And I think that's the key. When we get emotional, it overrides the logical part of our brain. And so, we're much more easily manipulated when we're emotional. And I think that's by design. And it's not that the propaganda is all lies. Some of it's true. Like, that's the most effective propaganda when it contains a kernel of truth to it. Because we want to do the right thing. If we believe we can help somebody who's suffering or help a country that's being tyrannized, then of course we want to help. And so I just think it's important for us to be awake to all of this so that, we're less easily fooled by it the next time it comes around. And the truth is, this has been going on for decades. We get into these wars thinking we're helping, but then later it gets revealed that not only didn't we really help, but usually the war made the situation worse, and we weren't told, we weren't shown that, we weren't told that. And so in the end, the only people who wind up benefiting from the war are the people in the military-industrial complex. And they make a lot of money from war, and they also make money from the cleanup from war, the rebuilding after the war. It's the same companies that make the war and that go in and create a new infrastructure after a war. And these are the companies, the people that Eisenhower warned about. All right. So anyway, I think the big change that is scheduled for humanity, we as a species are moving into a collective consciousness of peace. And I think what's happening right now is we're about to take some very first baby steps in that direction. I think it's got to begin with the truth coming out about what's really going on. It's the image that comes to my mind. It's like the wizard behind the curtain has to be exposed, like right now, he's getting a little exposed and he's saying, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. But there's that little dog, Toto, pulling the curtain back. And that reminds me, I don't want to segue too much, but when I was in London, I saw Wicked. It's been around for many, many years. I don't know how many people saw Wicked in the theater, but I heard that the movie has come out. The movie Wicked has come out. And I actually confess, I saw it a couple of times on stage because I liked it so much. And it's about exploring the nature of good and evil. And it asks the question, what is good and what is evil? And especially, what role does the media play and what role does propaganda play in our perception of good and evil? So it's very apropos for our times. I don't know if the movie is the same as the play. So I can only speak for the play. I can't recommend the movie since I haven't seen it yet. But if it's the same as the play, then it's definitely worthwhile. So I hope it's like the play because I found it very powerful spiritually. Anyway, where was I? So change. And the change begins with the truth. So I think we need to be ready for that. We need to try to welcome that when it happens because it's going to be part of the paradigm changing. Even though a lot of it will be shocking to many people. But for all of us who are on a conscious spiritual path, we all know that's what we came here to experience. That's why we incarnated. Planet Earth is about change upon change upon change. It's one of the primary lessons that we come here for. It's to learn how to handle change. How do we handle change? And in fact, that is an excellent exercise for home practice if you want to do some more journaling, if you want to do something tangible to engage these changes that are coming. You can write in your journal about how you cope with change. If you've been on a spiritual path for a while, I'm sure you've already done this, but if you haven't for some reason, or if it's been a long time since you have, I do recommend that to write about how do you cope with change. We talked last month about developing a sense of curiosity and open-mindedness around all of this uncertainty that's unfolding. And, that kind of mindset is great to cultivate right now in order to be available to the changes that are coming and to the revelations of truth that are coming. In spiritual circles, we call it beginner's mind, if you've heard that before. There's a classic spiritual book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. And if you haven't read that, I highly recommend it. It's about this very thing. All right, let's wrap up the post-election check-in. There's one more theme on that topic. It's, are you able to change your mind? So last month, I suggested talking with somebody who voted differently from you, if you remember that. And I got a few responses from people who shared with me that they didn't want to know what the other side thinks. They don't want to listen to them, especially if they know that the person is just going to, vent and rage and project bad energy at them. And, fair enough. Of course, it is important to draw healthy boundaries and not be a doormat. And if you know somebody is going to unload a lot of negativity and anger at you, then absolutely it's best to avoid that kind of interaction. That was definitely not what I had in mind when I suggested getting curious and learning about what the other side thinks. You'd have to pick the right person, hopefully somebody who can keep an open enough mind and who's established enough in the heart that they're not going to project too much onto you, or definitely not if they're going to shred you energetically. But look, if you can find the right person, I do still think it's such an important thing to really listen to other people who think differently than we do. To listen to them and to try to learn more about where they're coming from. Because the truth is, listening is an incredible act of love and kindness and generosity. Because when we really listen to somebody, we're loving them. If we're truly listening, we're loving them. And I know, so many times, we want to change the way other people think. We want to be able to influence other people. But the truth is, there's no way that you're ever going to change somebody's mind or win them over unless you really love them. So this I think is, I'm fleshing out what I was trying to get to last time. This becomes the practice, We're learning to love others and to listen to others. And ultimately, if you want to win people over and you want to change the way they think, and especially if you want to change their behavior, you need to model what it is you're advocating. So, like, for example, if you want someone to be more tolerant, then you need to model tolerance. And if you want somebody to be more peaceful or more kind or more loving, then you have to model peace and love and kindness. And I mean, that just makes sense, right? If we need to be those things ourselves before we can expect others to be them. And that's the essence of CORELIGHT. That's why we made our CORELIGHT.org's tagline is change the world by changing yourself. And so I keep coming back to this. This is the most important thing. It's like Gandhi said, you be the change. Be the change you used to seek in the world. And it reminds me of, what was that Beatles song? Revolution. You say you'll change the Constitution. Well, we all want to change your head. You tell me it's the institution. Well, you better free your mind instead. Okay, anyway, so I think practicing listening to others, really learning to love them, I mean, those are going to be all important skills as these revelations of truth come out more and more and more in the year ahead and the years to come, because we're going to need to learn to keep an open mind. We're going to need to be available to the new information coming. And we're going to need to be open to changing our own minds. And so I think the older we get, the more challenging that can be. Most people tend to become more rigid and more set in their ways the older they get. But it doesn't have to be that way. The brain is always capable of learning new things right up until we die. And if you're listening to this, then I would imagine you're more open to that than most people. But admitting that there's something that you didn't know, right? Especially admitting that maybe you were wrong in what you believed. That is really a sign of being spiritually mature. And I think it's a very rare person who's willing to change their minds, and especially to admit that they were wrong. And to me, that is a sign of humility. Humility being one of the most important and powerful spiritual states of all. And so, anyway, that segues into the next theme. So let's move into that. It's called the power of humility. I think it's really important for us to remember right now that nothing is as it appears, especially right now. And we can all benefit by practicing this taking in of information and just witnessing it, just being with it, practicing neither believing nor disbelieving, just taking that attitude of, I don't know. That is maintaining a sense of humility. Being open to changing your mind. Being okay with acknowledging you might have been wrong. I remember Leslie used to talk about this principle a long, long time ago. When I first met her, she was talking about this. This is, over 30 years ago. She used to say that humility is the most important spiritual quality to cultivate. Because with humility, you can be open to changing your mind and learning new ways of being, and that's the critical thing. If you really want to wake up, if you really want to step into your enlightenment, that's the key. So humility is like a foundational thing for this path, if you're serious about your awakening. So having the humility to admit you were wrong, or even that you might have been an asshole. She used to talk about that. She would say, I remember she used to say, imagine if we had a T-shirt that said, I'm an asshole written on it, and we all could get a chance to wear that in our little circle from time to time, and just, have the humility to say, yeah, I did that. I was an asshole. I'm sorry. And I mean, I know that might seem horrifying to some people, but she said it because that's this practice that we're doing, is we're learning to step back and to witness that egoic part of us that would rather be right, than admit any kind of perceived weakness, or be seen as a fool or an asshole or anything like that. That's just anathema to the ego. The ego is designed for survival, and the ego is synonymous with control, because we think that if we can just remain in control, then we can survive. And so the ego avoids the change. It avoids any kind of change, because change to the ego means death. Change being the opposite of control. And therefore, the ego would also avoid admitting any kind of perceived weakness, like not knowing something, or being uncertain about something, for example, or appearing vulnerable in some way. So to the ego, that's death. And that's why most people don't change, that's why as we age, most humans become more rigid in later years, But like I said, it doesn't have to be that way. That's what this path is about. So just to circle back, I can just imagine, what kind of collective ego death are we in for as these revelations of truth come forward? I mean, that's what I'm talking about here. Just that what's true for an individual is true for a collective, because a collective is just a group of individuals. And so the same rules apply, We're already in this uncertainty and not knowing. And it's already very uncomfortable for a lot of people. But this is why so many of us have been doing this spiritual training work for so long. Right? I mean, we've been practicing this ability to witness and to change and to keep an open mind and to learn new things. And that's how we develop humility. That's what's required for our awakening. And so I think that's what's going to need to happen collectively to make this global shift into the new paradigm of the heart. More and more people are going to need to be able to hear the truth and to have the humility to be available to the changes that go along with it. And we can be the vanguard. We are trained for this. This is what we've been doing. So we're ready for this. This is part of our midwifing of the new paradigm of the heart. I feel like I just want to pause for a second. I'm almost complete, but I just want to pause for a second because I want to mention that this course that we're offering right now, the 7 Portals of Spiritual Awakening course, is very much about all of this. Like the stuff I'm talking about today, I'm realizing like these are the things we're going to go into in the course, the 7 Portals. So if this is of interest to you, if you like these topics and you want to know more, I invite you to consider joining up for the 7 Portals course, because we're going to go deep into this. And like I said, that's one of Leslie's most powerfully transformative courses, is this one. Goes really deep into this, these aspects of change, these aspects of the things we need to do if we want to awaken spiritually and to step into our enlightenment. Okay, so some people shared with me post-election, like I think I mentioned last time, I got more questions and more sharing around like before and after the U.S. election than ever before. Some of them were from people who voted for the blue team, some from the red team. Both sides wrote in and shared with me, and there's one very short excerpt I wanted to read for you from a blue team voter. And I thought I'd read it because it's a really good summary of what I've been talking about. And it's very short. But her name is Linda, and she says, this was post-election. I thought to myself, this doesn't change who I am. It doesn't change my values, my priorities, my commitments, or the truth of my relationship to spirit. So in a sense, nothing really changed, which means with the election. Although there are plenty of unknowns in terms of how this will all play out in the physical world and what it might mean for each of us, you're right that we need to keep focused on our inner work. I know this sounds very Catholic, but it's about staying steady no matter what shows up. So thank you to Linda for sharing that. I thought that was an excellent summary for how to approach life post-election, whoever you voted for, however you're feeling. These are the things that I've been talking about. Focus on our inner work, clearing our own consciousness, showing up to make the world a better place in whatever way you're guided to do that personally. What can you do to help manifest the new paradigm of the heart in your own way? Do you have the humility to surrender to what's actually happening in the world and to trust in the perfection of it, whatever that might be, and to be able to change your mind if you have to? Like, for example, how can we raise our vibration? How can we hold the vibration of joy more in our lives? Like we were just talking about. And that actually segues into our next topic, the last topic for today, and that is raising our vibration into joy. So we've already spoken about it a little bit, but so I just briefly want to mention a few thoughts about it to close out for today. And I think, forgive me if you listen to the weather report. If you've been listening for a while, you'll know, like, I probably almost every December, this is one of my favorite times of year because the theme of the holidays is peace, love, and joy. You see those words everywhere. They're written on the wrapping paper. They're in the Christmas music. They're all over the decorations. It's everywhere. And I know that it's actually easy to get a little bit cynical about the holidays because, those words are everywhere, but people don't necessarily live them. And, there's commercialism and there's the busyness and, all the superficiality and all of that. But if you really get down to the core meaning of the holidays, it's holy days. The holidays are holy days. And I love treating them that way. For me personally, my practice is making every day a holy day all year long. But I don't know. I love this time of year because I think treating every day this way is easier at this time. And I see other people doing that. So really approaching this time of year as a window of spiritual power. This is an opportunity to receive the Christ energy that is amplified right now. And when I say Christ energy, I don't necessarily mean you have to be a Christian or don't have to have been raised as a Christian or celebrate Christmas. This is an opportunity to step into a new level of our own Christed self. That's what this is about. And so it's the perfect time to practice peace, love, and joy in whatever form that takes for you. And like I mentioned at the very beginning of the call, it's known as the season of gift giving. So practicing generosity, I feel, is like the best, most fantastic way to open our hearts and to bring more love and joy into our lives and to other people's lives. And also we've talked about New Year's Eve and New Year's Day being the perfect time for letting go of the old and inviting in the new. So it's a great opportunity to let go of those parts of your life that hold you back from experiencing peace, love, and joy, and making a commitment to living more in those high vibration qualities all year long. For some people, finding peace, love, and joy might mean being alone more, spending more time in quiet meditation. For other people, it's about spending time with family and friends and going to parties and, celebrating. And so I think it's up to each of us individually how we choose to spend this time. Maybe it's a combination of both, but I think the most important thing is just to use it. Use this as a time to raise our vibration, to just increasingly embody peace, love, and joy as much as we possibly can. And so on that note, I want to close by, this is very superficial. I feel like I was guided to do it anyway, so forgive me if it's really sappy for you. But there are a few holiday movies that I try to watch every year because they always open my heart. I know for some people, these are just sappy old movies and they don't have the same effect as they do on me, but I'm going to mention them anyway, just in case you might not have seen some of them. There are four. One of them is, it's a French movie called Joyeux Noël, or Merry Christmas. And it's a true story about the World War I Christmas truce. And if you haven't seen it, you're in for a treat. Find it. It's easy to find. It's somewhere you can watch it. Joyeux Noël. The other one, I just actually watched this the other day. It was a 2017 movie called The Man Who Invented Christmas. And it's about Charles Dickens writing A Christmas Carol. The story about Scrooge. And Christopher Plummer plays Scrooge. So it's like, as spiritual seekers, it's a particularly good one because it's about Dickens struggling with his internal shadow and facing his shadow and coming through to the other side. It's very clever, very well done. I highly recommend that movie. And another one that I love, which, I don't know, you have to like musicals to like this. It's called Scrooge. It's from 1970, and it's a musical, and Albert Finney plays Scrooge in that one, and he's just so brilliant. I could watch his performance of Scrooge ad infinitum, and I have. I think I've watched that movie more than any other movie in my life. And I think that one's hard to find, but it's free on YouTube. It's for whatever reason that's not anywhere else, but you can find it on YouTube. The last thing I wanted to share is not a movie, but I love listening to the audiobook of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, because it's the actual book and it's read by the actor Tim Curry, who's brilliant. It's a very, very, very good reading. And so if you've never read A Christmas Carol, it's an excellent holiday experience. Puts you in the festive mood, and just such a heart-opening story, a story of redemption and love and all the generosity, all the things we've been talking about today. So I'm going to leave you with that. I think we're complete with the talk for today. And so we can now move on to questions and answers. So first, as always, I just want to thank everybody for writing in. I love reading your questions and your sharing. So many people write in, and I really appreciate it. So thank you. I don't always get a chance to answer all the questions, but I do read them all. And if I don't answer your question, the answer comes from somewhere. You'll always get the answer, whether it's in a dream or a book, or somebody else shares the answer with you. The first question is from Sue, and I'm summarizing. It was a longer question, but she says, "It will be helpful and appreciated if you could specify which news sources you believe are most appropriate and helpful these days. You have cautioned us against some." So thank you for the excellent question, Sue. I need to preface my answer by saying a few things. First of all, I read your question and I thought, oh no. I got really hesitating about whether or not to address this in public, because I'm just aware of how contentious and controversial it is to talk about what news sources or what politics you have these days. It just, people make all kinds of assumptions based on what you say around any of this stuff. And then, of course, come intense judgments, acceptance or rejection based on the judgments. But in the end, I decided I should go ahead and share my answer with you, because you're not the only one who asked the question. There were actually a few people who asked the same question, and I thought, all right, this is Spirit speaking, and if I'm not going to answer, what's that about? So I thought, all right, now I ask you to step in. I invite you to please step into your witness, because if you've listened at all to these calls, you know that I take in all news sources. I watch the right, I watch the left, or read, or listen, or whatever. I try to take everything in, and I practice everything I've talked about. So just because I'm mentioning these sources that I'm about to mention, it does not mean that I am vouching for them. I do not suggest believing everything that these sources say. I always suggest taking in any news source using all the spiritual protocols that we talk about so often on these calls. And those practices, like I said, are witnessing. If you're new to the calls, Leslie and I describe what we mean by witnessing in the Marriage of Spirit book. Simply, a summary is it includes qualities of non-judgment and being balanced, being spiritually detached from what you're observing, neither believing nor disbelieving, keeping an open mind. What else? Most importantly, using your own discernment. All these things are critical. And so I just right now invite you to please invite in your witness as I share this information, please don't shoot the messenger. And I'm really sorry in advance if this might be upsetting to you. I do not mean it to be. But again, since several people asked, I feel that I need to share. Okay, so first, just in general, I recommend not trusting any quote-unquote news, so-called news, that relies on corporate funding or government funding. Because if they are, then they're compromised, because they're beholden to those financial sponsors. And that includes PBS, public broadcasting. So please don't hate me for this. Like I said, I'm just the messenger. To be clear, I am not saying that all people involved in the news are bad people, or that they all work for the CIA, or or anything like that. I'm sure there are plenty of wonderful people with very positive intentions working in journalism. But I need to say, I will sometimes take in corporate-controlled news, but the only reason I take it in is because I find it helpful to know what it is they want me to believe. And when I say they, like who is they, what I mean is just whoever's behind the legacy media. It used to be called the mainstream media, but you can't call it mainstream anymore because most people don't watch it. There's very few people who watch that stuff anymore. So it's not mainstream. They call it the legacy media. And, when I say they, I don't mean to, to sound like it's a conspiracy, but somebody's behind this, because all the news sources in that genre are saying the same thing. They read from the same script, so that's coming from somewhere. So, so I don't recommend watching legacy media at all, because the spin that is put on it it's so insidious. It really takes a very, very, very strong and trained witness and someone with excellent discernment to know what's true and what's a spin. And a lot of it's true, maybe 90% is true, but the 10% or whatever that's the spin that gets woven in so subtly, you don't even know it's happening. Just a general rule of thumb: if it makes you feel emotional and you start feeling anger or fear towards another group, you want to separate from another group, you project something at the other group, then you can be guaranteed that there's some kind of spin involved in that. It's designed to foment fear and separation, usually. And so, like I said, it's so insidious that we usually don't even realize it's happening. It's so well done, very, very, very well done. We don't realize that it's manipulation at some level. So, so I advise to go on a legacy media fast, a corporate media fast. So it doesn't mean you're never going to watch it. It's just take some periods of time where you just don't take it in and see how you feel. Notice how you feel without it. If you're listening to this call, you've probably done this before. I'm probably singing to the choir, but it's good to mention and remember. Okay, so I can give you a few different things. The first thing I can give you are a couple of news sources that people have shared with me that attempt to be unbiased. These two that I'm going to give you, they were both recommended to me fairly recently, so I'm not vouching for them, as I said, but as far as I can tell, they're trying to be fair. They're at least trying to be unbiased. One is called All Sides Now, and the website is allsides.com, ALLSIDES.com. And they present news from the left and the center and the right, so-called, and they tell you which one is which, and they provide a summary of the news story. And from what I've seen, a lot of what they present is still legacy media. So you can't really trust it. I mean, you can see what's on the left and what's on the right and what's in the center, but if it's legacy media, you still can't trust it. So anyway, so I offer that to you. It's kind of fun to check out. Just they do have, the different sources there for you. The next one is called wanttoknow.info. Excuse me, wanttoknow.info. So WANTTOKNOW.info. And it looks good. I haven't had time to really check it out too much, but I just thought I could read to you what they say. On the site it says, "We live in a complex world. Mainstream media rarely tells us the whole story. At wanttoknow.info, we transcend partisan politics by investigating the deeper forces that have corrupted both political parties and all aspects of government. We ask the most important questions that mainstream media ignores, questions that, if addressed, could unite us across our seemingly unresolvable differences." And there's a little video, and I just thought, oh, I like it. This is kind of cool. And from what I can tell, it seems like it's pretty good. So again, I'm not vouching for it, but you might want to check that out. And then lastly, I can share with you the names of a couple of independent journalists that are, what do I say about them? They're searching for the truth, let's say, in their own way. And as far as I know, they're not sponsored by corporations. That's what they say. And again, I am not vouching for them, but I can tell you it seems to me like at least they're trying to find the truth. They don't seem to me to be beholden to any corporation or government. They're truly independent, these people. And if you do an online search for them, you will find terrible things written about them. That those are written about the mainstream. These are people who used to work for the mainstream media, and they were considered at the time to be to the left of center, but then they got kicked out of the mainstream, or they left the mainstream, but I think it was kicked out because they started asking difficult questions, probing questions about the mainstream narrative. So it didn't work out well for them. So now they're independent journalists. And again, I'm not vouching for them. And this is like, if you want to check this out, you have to use your own discernment and take it all with a grain of salt. The first one is Glenn Greenwald, Greenwald, Glenn Greenwald. He's the journalist who broke the Edward Snowden story in 2013. If you remember that, there was an Oscar-winning documentary in 2014 made about that story. Glenn Greenwald founded the mainstream media called The Intercept, but he left there. And so you can find him now on rumble.com. Rumble is the free speech alternative to YouTube. And he's also on Substack. And he has a news show that he produces several times a week. I think it's 5 days a week, and again, independently, and it's called System Update. The other person is Matt Taibbi, T like Tom, A-I-B-B like boy, I, Matt Taibbi. He used to write for Rolling Stone magazine, and he's known for breaking a lot of important news stories, but I think one of the biggest and the most recent ones were the Twitter files, if you heard about that. Anyway, he can be found at Racket News, Racket.news, and that's R-A-C-K-E-T, like tennis racket, Racket.news. He's also on Substack and on Rumble. So, again, please don't shoot the messenger. I'm not vouching for these journalists, but several people asked, and this is all independent stuff. So I always suggest with any so-called news source, use your own discernment, practice witnessing, neither believing nor disbelieving. And then you can't go wrong. You can watch anything. You can take it all in, and there's never a problem. So anyway, I feel a little vulnerable sharing this with you because, like I said, it is so contentious these days. But I hope you'll realize that, I try to see all sides. I try to take it all in, and that's why I try to find more independent, more balanced views. And I hope that's helpful. And so, Sue, thank you for asking that question. The next question comes from Lynn. I have been in a complete Facebook Messenger heated argument. How do you fend off such energetic attacks? Well, thank you, Lynn. I know you're not alone. Plenty of people struggle with this kind of thing, as we all know. And I guess there are many levels of an answer to this question. I can only speak personally. I always start with processing myself. I use the Marriage of Spirit methods that Leslie and I teach in our book, The Marriage of Spirit, and what that means is I use the outside as a mirror of something that I need to see about myself, about my own unconscious side. So it's about making the unconscious conscious. And it's essentially like what the exercises do is they help you to shine a light on the shadow aspects of yourself. And then what happens is it kind of magically transforms. If you've done it right, if you practice it well, you can have magic transformations because, then you see what you need to see. And whenever that happens with me, when I see what I need to see, then one of two things happens, and this is guaranteed. Either the other person goes away, or they start behaving differently towards you. It's totally amazing, totally miraculous. I'll bet you many people listening to this call have experienced this because I know a lot of you do these Marriage of Spirit practices. But I highly, highly recommend that as a first line of healing, a first line of defense, whatever you want to call it, against this kind of attack. That's number one. So that being said, there are other levels. There's the level of like simply drawing healthy boundaries where you say no with love. You might leave a final message saying no in some way from your heart, and then you block the person. Or you don't pick up the phone when they call or whatever it is, but you let them know I'm not letting you treat me like a doormat anymore or whatever, whatever you want to say. If the energy attacks continue, right, if you're feeling energy attacks on the inner planes, which is, that's not uncommon. Some people like to consult shamans, or energy workers or even exorcists or whatever, you find whoever you resonate with. But there's this other level of stopping an energy attack through use of energy. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't work. Like I said, I always start with working on myself because to me that has the longest lasting relief. Sometimes if you need an immediate relief from that kind of thing, then you might want to try these other methods as well. But ultimately, I think the most important principle is that, the metaphysical principle that we teach at CoreLight is that at one level of consciousness, there's no separation, no such thing as separation. The person doing the attacking is actually a part of us. So we're all connected at that level of consciousness. At a soul level, there's no such thing as victims and tyrants. And so that's a much bigger conversation to have. And I taught a whole course on that called The New Paradigm of the Heart. But I think I can't really speak a lot more about that right now just because we're almost out of time. So I hope that's helpful, Lynn. I thank you for your excellent question, and good luck with, managing that attack. And may you heal well, and may you may you find the heart space in a difficult situation. So I keep you in my prayers. The next question is from Allison. So let's see. Allison describes a very challenging situation that she's been in, and she talks about reading the Marriage of Spirit book, which has been very helpful, especially the part about the upward and downward spiral states of consciousness, which are like a map of the human psyche. So that's kind of the background. I'm going to read you just a part of the message. She says, my question relates to the states in the upward spiral. I'm currently experiencing some relief from the downward spiral states that I've recently been plunged into as a result of the current crisis. This is because there has been some improvement in the situation for now anyway. But while these more positive or uplifting feelings offer a welcome sense of respite, I feel more calm and even some happiness and a sense of hope. Is it still just as important to bring in the neutral witness when experiencing them or to process them in some way? And then there's a second part here. It says, to be honest, I'm very wary of allowing myself to feel good in a superficial way at the moment, as I'm aware that these more positive states are also just egoic, polarized states, and that becoming attached or stuck there will probably just result in a spin back to the opposite downward spiral side again, especially if things suddenly take another turn for the worse. That really scares me, even if I can bring in my witness quickly, as I feel I need to develop a sense of real inner strength and stability, which can withstand all the buffeting, as I've been feeling very weak and vulnerable. What's your advice on how best I could develop inner strength and stability, or groundedness? So thank you, Allison. It's an excellent question. I just need to mention about your name, Allison. When I see the name Allison, I think all is one. You just add an E on the end and you have all is one. I don't know if you know that or not, but I thought it was worth mentioning. I love your name. So first, I just want to say I'm really sorry that you're having to go through, pardon me, that you're having to go through such a challenging situation. I did read your whole message, and I know how hard that can be. So I just wanted you to know I'm keeping you and your husband in my thoughts and prayers. God bless you. So you asked two questions. The first one, I'm just going to read it again, was, while these more positive or uplifting feelings offer a welcome sense of respite, I feel more calm and even happiness and hope. Is it still just as important to bring in the neutral witness when experiencing them or to process them in some way? So in the beginning, no. In the beginning, just enjoy the positive states. I mean, Leslie and I, over 30 or more years that we've been teaching this, we've found most people have spent so much time in the downward spiral that it's actually really good to just let the positive states be what they are and enjoy them and let them be like a counterbalance in a way. And, just enjoy the positive states for what they are. That's perfectly fine, perfectly normal, perfectly natural. And, practicing witnessing is always a good thing no matter what. And like you said, it's great that you're aware that both positive and negative are both aspects of ego. But like I said, really, especially in the beginning when you're doing this work, you're learning the work, I strongly suggest just enjoy the positive states when you're in them. So I hope that's helpful. Your second question, what is your advice on how best I could develop inner strength and stability or groundedness? Let's see. So my advice, Allison, is to just keep doing what you're doing. If you're using the Marriage of Spirit practices, the witnessing practice plus the three egoic clearing practices, the polarities, triangles, and squares, then you are developing that inner strength that you're talking about. It just takes a little time, but those benefits come. Even if you can't feel it right away, it's still happening. And the truth is, it doesn't take very long before you really notice the difference. You get stronger, you get more stable, you get grounded very quickly if you do those practices regularly. And I can promise you that. I've watched it over and over and over, and especially in myself. I speak from personal experience, but I've also watched it happen to countless people. So, it just takes consistency. It takes time, and you will be amazed at how strong your witness becomes very quickly. When you asked that question, I remembered a story. I remembered something Leslie used to talk about when I first met her. It was about how time is accelerating, and she was doing her personal processing work like you're describing, but it was back in the 1980s. And for her, like you, it seemed to be taking so long. And even though she said it was actually quite fast, but when you're in it, when you're in the downward spiral states, it just seems like it's taking for effing ever. And so I remember she said she complained to her spiritual guides, her inner guides, and she said to them, this just feels so awful. I would not wish this on anybody. And you want me to teach this to people? I don't want to teach this stuff. And her guides replied, what took you 10 years will take others too. And that was true for me. I noticed that it didn't take long at all. When I engaged those practices, they were fast. And I know many other people who feel the same way. Things move. I started back in the early 90s, 25, 30 years ago. And they were moving much faster then, but now things are just moving super fast. So you can really clear a piece of shadow, whatever you want to call it, in hardly any time at all. And you can watch your witness getting strong really quickly. So I guess I just encourage you to keep going, practice patience. You will get there. I think the other thing that comes to mind to say is, you might want to consider taking this 7 Portals course that I'm about to teach. It starts on January 15th, because that course and the other the Spiritual Warrior Training course that's already up on our website, both of those are really excellent for this type of work. They are 2 of Leslie's and CORELIGHT'S most powerful foundational courses. So the 7 Portals it'll include a couple of live Zoom calls with me, like I said. So that might be a good one to start with. And we'll be diving more into all of these principles that I've been discussing here. We'll be diving into them a lot more in that course. But the Spiritual Warrior Training course is also there, and it's available right now. So if you wanted to go ahead and start, you could start with that one. Okay, I hope that's helpful, and I wish you all the best with the great work that you're doing on yourself, and especially with the challenging situation that you're in, Allison. So God bless you and your husband, and thank you for your excellent question. All right, and that's it. Those are the questions for today, and oh my gosh, I look at the clock, we're out of time. So let us close with our ending meditation and prayer. And this will be just very brief. So I invite you, if you're multitasking, I invite you to just pause for a few moments and get quiet, sit in a chair or lie on the floor, and just close your eyes and take a few long, slow, deep breaths. And just let go. Breathing in the light and the life force that surrounds you. Breathing out any mind chatter that might have gotten stirred up by our conversation today. Breathing in love and peace and joy. And breathing out shadow, tension in the body. And we make an offering to Great Spirit of all the processes that came up today, all the diving into shadow, all of the stuff that might have stirred us up. We give it all back. And we invite in the peace and the love and the joy. And we institute those states foremost in our hearts and minds. And we ask, Great Spirit, that you please hold our hands as we walk out into the world now. Help us to live our soul's highest purpose. Help us to shine our light brightly and to share peace, love, and joy with the world. And we give such great thanks, deep, deep gratitude for all that we're given, all the blessings of this life, especially the bodies, beautiful bodies that we get to wear, and this extraordinary time we get to live in on amazing planet Earth. And we send a great big blessing out to the whole of the earth. We send our love. Let's just visualize our love sending out as a light coming from our heart, sending it out around the earth, seeing our love light enveloping the earth. May it bless the whole of the natural world and all people, especially those who suffer for any reason. And we invite in our Christed self. At this time, at this powerful spiritual window, where the veils are thin and access to those higher vibratory energies are easily accessed. So we call them in and we embody them, especially joy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Alalahu. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I love you. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. May you have a blessed, blessed holiday season. I love you, and I look forward to seeing you in the new year. And meanwhile, I'll be with you in the field of love on the inner planes. All my love. Bye for now.